my god, the second recording. Okay. Hey guys, what's up? This video is going to be a bit different. I'm going to change into this commentary style, so I'm sorry that you have to watch my awful gameplay. But anyways, I recently saw a video about Rec Rap leaving the Mormon Church, and first off, I want to say big props to Rec Rap for even coming out about this, as this space can be extremely judgmental when it comes to religion, especially with Mormons. So shout out to Rec Rap. I'm a big fan, and thank you for the inspiration. My experience isn't anywhere near his. I was Mormon growing up, but left the church when I was about 10, maybe 11, and I never truly got to understand its gospel, or at least not until now. Oh my god, this dog. I won't lie, the community growing up inside of this environment was mostly positive. Everyone was friendly. I had plenty of friends that I'd hang out with. I even joined Scouts, which at the time was conjoined with the church. Every Sunday, we'd have our main service. People would come up, say a story, talk about the Book of Mormon and how it's impacted their day-to-day life, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, as a kid, I didn't pay much attention most of the time, and that's probably because I was playing Minecraft Lite on my mom's phone. I know, I'm an old head. Minecraft Lite it's pretty old. But after this, they'd separate everyone. My father would go to men's group, my mother would go to women's, and I'd get sent to seminary class. Most of the time, it would just be me crying until someone pulled me off of my parents, but because I didn't feel like going. It was boring. For those of you who don't know, seminary is basically a room full of kids with a few teachers. On top of this, if my family actually stayed long enough, the voluntary teachers would separate the kids in age groups into tiny classrooms, like literally the smallest rooms ever. I remember my class was like 2 guys and 1 girl, and one of the guys wouldn't even stay long enough to do the class, so it was really just me and these 2 other kids, with our teacher, of course. But they'd basically force us to read the Book of Mormon and the Bible. Like, we had nowhere to go because the church is a literal maze. So we'd sit in this tiny room while I spaced out most of the time and didn't pay attention. After this, everyone would hang out in the lobby, talk to the bishop, yada, yada, yada. But me, my family, we left right away. Mostly because my dad wanted to watch football, but that's besides the point. Long story short, me as a kid didn't necessarily hate going to church, but I didn't like it either because it was boring. I remember the most exciting thing was getting into water fully clothed and getting baptized. That was pretty fun. But everything else, it was just kind of there. I didn't learn much and wasn't taught life skills, like, at all. My brothers can say the same thing, especially my older brother. He was kind of raised into being Mormon and was shaped by the church to be this perfect kid. You know, those dudes dressed in white that ask you if you want to learn about the gospel. Yeah. But this is where the problems began. He read and studied the Bible like 3 times, and similarly read the Book of Mormon plenty of times, even acing the test to go, and yet our church's bishop didn't let him go on his mission. To most people, this might not look like a lot, but when you dedicate yourself to something like this, it's really demotivating, especially since he was gonna travel to a whole nother country for this. So the bishop saying he wasn't prepared enough was just not a good experience. Like, shit, I wouldn't want that to happen, and obviously he gave up. My mother, on the other hand, had even worse treatment, as well as my father. It's almost scary how whitewashed the church was at the time, because my father being white and my mother being Mexican, it was almost just uncomfortable to go. At the start, my dad felt judged, and obviously my mother too. And even further down the timeline, I know it's a strong word, the racism never really stopped, with plenty of remarks from other members, because the church is a white dominated community. Even after building good relationships with people, my family still just got poor judgment and was basically labeled as the bad Mormons of the church. One example being that they drink coffee from time to time. Even if we showed up late, we'd get judged similarly if we left early, which is so crazy because other families did it and no one cared, but when we did it, everybody cared. Other times with discrimination just kept piling up, with one of the craziest stories I know going like this. My mother was the scout leader from the church Cub Scouts, so she set things up. She brought the food, she created activities, she planned out the schedule, etc. Now, let me just say for starters, me and all the other kids in Scouts had a blast when my mother set things up. And it was made kind of obvious. The kids fucking loved it. Like, there was other times when another parent would set it up and do everything, and we'd be bored out of our minds because we were reading a book and never got to do activities. Apparently, other parents didn't like that my mom was doing such a good job, so they created a group chat without her in it. There was times when my mom would drop me off at church for scouts and I'd just be waiting there. No kids, no parents. The only person that came out to get me was the bishop, and he'd be confused on why I was here. So, of course, he would call my mom, say, "Hey, your son is here alone." And my mom would then say, "Oh, yeah, it's because they have scouts today." Turns out that the other parents canceled scouts, and my mom wouldn't know because they had their own group chat. This happened plenty of times, not only with me, but with my brother as well. There was even times where they'd end scouts early and no one would tell my mom, so again, I'd be waiting there to get picked up. There was more instances though, like times when my mother would leave church early with a friend, then get blamed by everyone, including that friend, that she was the problem. Another thing that never really sat right with me and the church was money. One main issue being to pay your tithings. For those of you who don't know about this, essentially you pay 10% of your yearly income to the church to support them and other churches. In the Mormon Church, it's typically given to the temples and families that were struggling. It's really common, I'm sure, even outside of Mormon churches, you'll see this regularly. Now, let me tell you this, we were not rich, like, at all. I was eating eggs and hot dogs on Saturday as a very good breakfast. My family was struggling with 4 children, one being disabled, and jobs that honestly didn't provide the best income. But I think you can see where I'm going with this. We, as the, I'm not going to say poor, less wealthy family, had to pay 20% of the household income, 10% from both my parents. And of course, the church from time to time would ask us to help pay for other families' tithings because they couldn't afford it. We couldn't even afford it. We had times where we had to ask other people to help us out because we couldn't afford it most of the time. On top of this, I live in California, and again, for those of you who don't know, California has some of the worst prices in America. I said that with some juice to it. America. Like, at my job right now, I'm getting paid $17 an hour. And if you don't know, that's basically minimum wage. Like, most every other state's minimum wage is between $7 and $14. So looking at it that way, I think it gives you an idea on how much money my parents were giving to the church working a 9 to 5. When I was in about 5th or 6th grade is also when we left the church. But soon the judgment in people came to haunt me as a kid because plenty of the church members actually ended up working at my middle school. Yeah, my school. It's okay though, I got through it. As a matter of fact, shout out to the librarian. I actually really enjoyed her and her family from the church because they were always nice to me. But the nurse, on the other hand, not so much. As a kid, I got injured and sick on a regular basis, mostly from sports. So she would see me a lot. She was also one of those people that didn't like my family, so I'd get snarky remarks and just ugly looks from her on a normal basis. I also grew up with asthma, and I remember this time she tried correcting me on how to use an inhaler, like I hadn't used one in my entire life. But you know, she was one of those people that tried to be better than everyone else, so I didn't try. I let her win. I was like, okay, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Back to the core focus of this video. I want to just say that in no means have I tried or wanted to defame the church or religion. I just know that there's plenty of churches where people are just ignorant, especially within the Mormon community. So getting the fact of how people can act in this environment out there might help someone. You never know. I'm personally no longer Mormon. I'm actually a Christian, so I believe equality is extremely valuable to everyone. Similarly to Rec Rap, it was just kind of a thing where I'm like, Mormons think they're correct. So statistically, they can't be correct. If every religion thinks they're correct, statistically, everyone will be wrong. It was just kind of the same thought process, and I had to really do some deep digging to figure out what I'm gonna believe in. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this video, though, is just to respect each other. No matter the background, no matter what ethnicity, who you were or who you are, just give everyone a chance and don't be judgmental. Getting to know someone is one of the most beautiful things on this planet, and I think everyone can live their lives in unison without basing everything on beliefs and how good they are at doing something, you know? It's just stupid. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to see more videos similar to this. It was just kind of a spontaneous thing. So, yeah, have a good day. Be sure to like and subscribe, please. I'm closing in on 2,000 subscribers right now, and I'll see you guys later.